Welcome to Facing the Party, the roleplay-centric podcast from us here at Door Monster. I'm Ricky, your host. Here with me today is...
Allison.
And Kyle.
And Kyle.
This is the first episode today, so we're going to be talking about what this podcast is about. Mostly, we're going to be talking about everything that doesn't have an actual physical written down rule in the book. This is going to be like player etiquette, DM prep, role-playing, mostly role-playing, how to role-play different things well, and of course you are your own judge for what is well and what is good, so take our advice, don't take our advice, but you should probably take our advice.
D&D stories, lots of long and really personal D&D stories.
Oh yeah, that'll happen. That just comes with the territory.
The only things that I know about D&D are not the rules, so I should be a pro at this.
Actually, yeah, even when I'm running games, I mostly just make the rules up as I go.
That is the number one rule of DMing.
It actually is, though, right? Like, the rule books specifically say, like, final ruling goes to the dungeon masters. These are just here as guidelines.
Yep.
That's sort of like the point.
Well, yeah, you said this was about role-playing, right?
Yep.
All right.
Role-playing and
I've got
everything
this.
that's not a
First,
regular.
pick your safety word.
Yep. This is always important.
Second, figure out if you're a lace or a leather kind of person.
Fair. Or both.
They have these
And then decide
if
if you're a dragon or an elf. Or maybe you're a gnome. I'm really not here to judge.
I hear they actually have these RPG systems. You shouldn't play them. It's weird, but they exist.
What do you mean?
They have, there are
Like
so
D&D
many
with-
tabletop games.
Ooh.
There are so many tabletop games.
Bruh. Spice up your life with tabletop games.
We do
Tabletop
eventually have to
games.
have one show where we like explore different like
I've got
formats.
I've
or
got
something.
a
yeah.
bunch of awful.
I-
I really wanted to play
Like-
the Munchkin game. I know everyone's already played it, but I haven't.
Oh yeah,
And it's like
The
D&D
really simple
mini.
one.
Little
It,
mini
it
D&D.
is like
Isn't it Pathfinder actually? Isn't it?
there is a Pathfinder
Paizo?
one, but like Munchkin is its own brand of. When we play Munchkin, we should just go to Steve Jackson Games. It's just in Austin, and I know somebody who works there.
Oh okay.
Okay,
That'd be
sure.
cool.
That sounds great.
So
I just
look
wanna
forward
play.
to that, everybody.
Hell yeah.
So guys, what is RP?
Man, I don't know.
To me, it's leather. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, all right. In the context of playing Dungeons and Dragons.
So I think it's important. Like we all have very different perspectives coming in on it. I'm very much a writer, so everything I do is sort of like from a detached, omniscient writer's point of view.
I'm a character analyst.
She's
so.
she's very character analyst and very recent relative to the two of us D&D player. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
you've been doing it like freaking forever, so I think you have a
Forever.
very different
Yeah.
or at least a longer storied backstory than we do on it.
So what is role playing? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Let's see. I think it's
It's the fun part.
It's really just playing your character. Like it
Right.
doesn't have to be
Yeah.
the biggest thing in the world. People always get scared and they're like, RP, I'm afraid. I
Well-
just want to roll dice. But
So maybe this was just me and Reed being weird as kids, but I think other kids did something similar. But me and Reed, our primary form of entertainment as kids wasn't like sports or anything. We just played, like, we just had make-believe scenarios we would come up with and act out. And Dungeons and Dragons just exists as a way for adults to do that, that adds rules so that people can't go, well, I have a shield that blocks everything. They have the rules for the shield that blocks everything and what it can't block, and then it like lays all that out. So the role-playing act to me is the part that comes very naturally. It's the part of just like, we're going to sit down and like collectively tell this story by just
I'm
sort
totally
of like,
opposite.
really?
Yeah, because like okay, so I did that too. Actually, growing up, we had a large rock in our backyard, and it was exclusively my favorite play spot because I had
exclusively.
a dope imagination, and so I could play all these characters. But then as I got older, it turned a lot more into acting, which is a way more daunting word,
Right.
in my opinion, than role playing or playing characters in a game.
Yeah.
So it turned into acting, and I can't do anything if people are looking at me. I just can't, especially like more than 3. As soon as 3 people are paying attention to what I'm saying, I get like flushed and nervous and start stuttering and stuff. So it was more difficult for me to get into it because I am not naturally charismatic in front of people. Can't do accents or, well, really acting, actually. Still a problem.
Yeah.
2 years into being on a sketch comedy channel, 1 year into playing D&D, and I still don't think I can act.
I think it's,
You don't have to be good. That's the number one thing
exactly.
about RP is you don't have to be good. You have to be consistent.
I completely agree. I think that's the best advice
I think that's the only possible. I think you've mentioned this before, but I think that's the only possible like downside to things like exactly what we were doing, and also like Critical Role, is that it makes people think they have to like put on a performance every time
Right.
they're doing it.
And you can.
You
It can be fun.
but you don't
Sure.
have to.
But you don't have to.
Yeah.
Just starting little things like I'm not going to just like roll to hit the goblin with my axe.
Yeah.
I'm going to like raise my axe above my head and try to bring it down on top of this puny goblin
Right.
who is in my way, you know? Like you are not just like I think that starting with just describing your intended actions in combat is a great way to start getting into character.
Yeah.
And like figuring out like it's like, well, my rogue is not just going to like savagely strike like the barbarian just did with his dagger. Like I am going to like cunningly like come up
Yeah.
from below, or like suddenly I appear at his side and sink the dagger into his kidney. You
No,
know,
that's totally it. You just need like just describe what you would normally do. Like I punch him, but then just add in a flavor word.
exactly.
Like just a flavor word that matches your character.
I think like me and Ian specifically, we always like our entire sketch channel is based off of looking at normal things and going, but what if we looked at it from this slightly different angle? So most of like role playing for me has been just things like in the moment there are rules, right? The rules exist. They say if you can do this to this person and it has this effect or whatever. But if you think about some of those things for even a few seconds, you start having to figure out like how that works, right? Does that make sense? It's like
No.
it's like the page may say you get to cast you get to like shoot a fireball at this thing or whatever. So you can go, I cast fireball. But if you think about it for a minute, what does it actually look like when that happens, right?
Describe,
It's like,
yeah,
well,
definitely.
yeah, like especially even in the spells, it's like there's verbal and somatic. Like so, there is hand waving and chanting of ancient language happening when you cast this fireball. Like it's not just a fireball just appears above them and they need to roll saves.
Yeah.
That's boring.
right.
And like I have played D&D campaigns where it was just like it's just combat, nobody talks in character, everyone is just like above board. Anytime any information is needed, it's just beaten out of people. And like
I have a question.
there's
though.
a thing. What?
Was that because of your DM? Because I can't
It's
imagine.
because of everybody. It's everybody's job.
It is
to-
everybody's job, but it's definitely the DM's first.
Right. The DM needs to put his precedent on their table. And you can play some fun. There are some great board games out there.
Yeah.
If you want to roll dice and like strategically maneuver characters or combat, like there's some great war games and board games out there that'll do just that.
Mm-hmm.
And D&D can definitely be strategic. I came from 4th edition, and 4th edition is all about its grid and its strategic planning and stuff. But if you're not playing the character, you're missing half the game, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on what you're trying to get out of it. And I guess that's also like that brings in different, all the different systems work a little bit differently and give different things based on what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always been very roleplay, like telling a story first and then using the rules to facilitate the story. But I know there are some people that are like that really like the grids and stuff because they're probably the same kind of people that enjoy like the Total War games or
Right.
or things like that, which I've never been able to get into because it just doesn't interest me as much.
Well, so my first advice to anybody who has this like reservation, since it was definitely me, and I had a little bit of this when I first played D&D, which was with you and your friends.
Yeah.
Pick a group that you feel comfortable enough in, and a group like be the dull one of the group, because then if you're ever going to feel uncomfortable, it's because you're not going out enough. Like pick friends that are really good that you feel comfortable. And if everyone's comfortable, they're going to be doing crazy, wild things or getting really into character. And it'll be much easier to, like, follow suit, basically.
Definitely, I would say play with your friends, especially when you're just starting out. Like, definitely play with your friends. Play it in somebody's home or someplace private. Don't go to a game store and play in public if it's your first time. Like,
Right.
that's definitely fun. I've had fun playing at game stores. And there are game stores that have private rooms and stuff like that. That's a little different. But, like, playing in public at a game store is definitely daunting for some people to get in character. And you'll see them sort of, like, just like, I attack and I use flurry of blows.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I can-
and
I
like, if you're a DM and you see that, like, you could like, hey, maybe we should play this at a house or something, or
Yeah.
rent a private room so that way, or play on Roll20 or any of the online versions.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
But,
I
like-
was definitely always. So I'm just thinking back because it's been a while. I haven't played that long.
You haven't played played as a character or as a
Just
player?
in general. Like I think I played my first
Oh,
game
sure.
with Ian in like 2015, maybe.
Sure.
It's kind of
Like
a long time
it's
ago.
been, I guess it's been about 5 years, but I also wasn't doing it regularly up until
Yeah.
like this year. Running our game is the most I've ever played.
Sure.
Like this year far outmatches the last 4, and just in quantity of D&D played.
Sure. Yeah.
But like earlier in high school and stuff, like I was never specifically. I wasn't a theater kid. You know, like
Yeah.
I was not the
Right.
jump up and role play kind
yeah.
of guy
Yeah.
necessarily.
Who you know?
But I guess that's sort of what I'm saying is like it doesn't have to be that critical role type. Like you don't have to be professional actors to be able to do it.
Right.
It can just be something where like you are all controlling the character and you can describe what the character does as a different person. You know, you don't necessarily have to speak in character or anything.
Right.
And I have more experience, I think, from the DMing side than I do from the player side. And so I had to kind of get into it a little bit more because I wanted to make the world feel fleshed out.
Yeah.
But like one thing I've tried to do as much as possible is if I have brand new people, I try to encourage them just to play a character that is themselves, so they don't have to like think in the mindset of a different person immediately,
Sure.
and they can just make decisions. And the thing I try to encourage people to do is just to interact with the world as if they're in it rather than as if they're controlling another person. And that I think that's actually the first step. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can go into making more of a personality that isn't yours, or coming up with all these different like quirks and an accent and all that stuff. I think is later.
Yeah.
The thing you want to
Well-
get people into first is like,
I actually think that's the greatest strength of D&D 5th edition
yeah,
is that every background and every race and class, there's a way to just randomly generate a personality.
yeah, that's true.
That's
And
awesome.
with your DM's help, you can make sure you don't roll a toxic one. We'll talk more about toxic role playing later. But
Yeah.
this is just the basics of role playing. But you can like play a veteran soldier, and maybe you're fighting to keep money, to keep food on the table for your family back home. And then that tells you, hey, like this is my character. I'm in it for the money, but for good reasons, and like maybe I should respond like this. I am gonna play defensively. I'm going to do certain things a certain way because this is the character I rolled. And I suggest everybody their first time to roll like not all the flaws or anything, but just roll an ideal for your character from the D&D 5th edition book, and just roll with that as like your personality. Just roll with the ideal.
My advice is a little bit different, actually. I would say for the first game, it would make sense to play kind of as yourself, just to get a feel for how it works, basically. Because one of the biggest hurdles is, I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, roll for strength. You're like, whatever. And then you roll and you see what happens, I guess. And then I would say the thing that helped me most, especially in our current Millennium games, is I actually just picked inspiration characters from other things.
That helps
so that
too.
I could
Yeah.
follow motivation. Like my
Yeah.
current character in Millennium games is, I'm going to regret saying this because then people are going to look for it, but it's
Oh, yeah.
heavily influenced by Starfire from Teen Titans, because she's a little fairy person
Right,
who's
yeah.
very alien to the world around her. And I thought, who does this remind me of? And then once I had this kind of idea set that was already pre-done, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is how she reacts to certain situations. While all the situations aren't the same, I actually have reference
Yeah.
for my decisions, and that helped a lot. So don't pick. That being said, it's much more difficult, in my opinion, to pick like maybe somebody wants to make the Witcher character.
Yeah.
If you're picking silent, gloomy, dark characters, it's a little
There's
bit
always
more.
one.
It's a little bit harder to do, honestly, because
I mean,
their
that
whole
could
thing
be
is
done
that
very well.
it can, but people don't think that they would talk much.
Right.
We ran into this with Altered Egos with Jeffrey and I's character as well, which is we played dark, gloomy characters, and neither of us spoke because our characters would never speak in most of those
Oh
situations.
my lord.
So we're better now.
At least at that point you can. I do think that like there are steps to RP. And
Yeah.
I think this first step is describing your intended action.
Yeah, I agree.
You're going to, because also this is the thing people get tripped up on when they try to learn this, is like, well, I don't want to describe that I'm doing something and then roll a 1 and not do it. But you describe what you're attempting to do. Your intent is there. You are wanting to just slash, like, top to bottom this goblin in half with your axe. He's going to fall apart that way. Like you see in the movies, right?
Yeah.
You are the savage barbarian inspired by every metal album cover ever. And like, that's going to happen. That might not happen, but you are going to attempt that.
Yeah.
So you say, I bring my axe up and bring it down with the might of the thunder and like try to slice this goblin asunder.
Well, and that's like really great for moments where you know you're gonna succeed. Like I think it's Ian that started this, or maybe it's you. But anytime you roll a nat 20 to kill somebody, they go describe how you kill this person, which is a blast. But also in other situations where you're just attempting to do something, the DM usually can help follow suit. Like if you're like, oh, I want to punch them, and they're like, give me more, what else? And you're like, I want to punch them so that they fly back into the wall 4 feet, and then you roll a 1.
Right.
The DM's gonna tell you how and why that didn't work, and it's gonna be great. So like, even if you came up with this whole thing, the DM's gonna play off of it really well.
And as the DM, your player never just missed.
Right.
That's really important. Is like, that's like the number one thing that is going to, like, it's easy to describe hits, but like, if like they missed, like, how did they miss? Like,
shoelace was untied.
Like, boom.
Boom.
Like, arrow slid right past, like, the nape of his neck. Or, like, it's like you swing your sword and it just clangs off of the impenetrable defense of the heavy armor in front of you.
Right.
And, like, if you got, like, really close to hitting them, it's like you felt that you almost had it, but they moved at just the right moment. And
I'll usually try to tailor that based on the exact number they roll. Like if they are like 1 off, then it's usually a different description than if it's like, you know, if it's missed by a pretty wide margin. Occasionally it is just like, because like you missed, you swung a little short, and it was just kind of a boring miss. It didn't work.
Ones are easy. Like ones are easy to describe as misses because they're catastrophic failures.
Yeah.
Like you swing back and you throw your sword behind you. Yeah. It's now stuck in a tree.
Well, so I think actually ones kind of are important because a lot of times I've seen people they'll make the consequences of a 1 just be something like you take damage or like something bad happens on a 1. My preferred way of doing natural 1s is I still try to make them fail forward. If a natural 1 happens, then I try to make the circumstances change in a way that now they have a new obstacle or something to deal with.
Interesting.
So like if you are having a sword fight or something and you roll a natural 1, instead of just going like, oh, you trip and you take
stab
2
yourself
damage,
in the knee.
Instead it's like, you swung your sword so wrong that you cut your own belt off and your pants fell down and you now have to
it's actually
that's
actually depending on like the severity of the fight, like in the crypt, like fighting the necromancer, like a natural 1 is going to be like all the hope is draining, right?
Yeah.
But like you're in the bar fighting hooligans, I constantly do your pants fall down, and now everybody knows what you're working with, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, what an embarrassment. The bard starts writing down how you cut your own pants off. Like, that's great. And there was a point at because in 4th edition you had minions, and minions just have 1 hit point always, no matter what they are, which is a great mechanic, but that's a mechanic thing. Like somebody critical a minion, and minions just die no matter how hard you hit them.
Right.
So I'm like, how do I make this special? And I'm like, they're in a tavern. So I was just like, your axe like cuts through the minion and into the floorboard, and when you loosen it up, you find like a bag of 50 gold under the floorboard.
Wow.
Like, you found a smuggler's hold right there.
That's pretty great.
But
that's pretty good.
Like that's step 1 is describing.
Describe
for
what
DMs, like when they miss, when they hit, for the player, you're describing the action you're going to take. It's a nice give and take from the player and the DM. I think step 2 to RPing is really where you start responding to things in character. You don't have to speak fully in character. You don't have to like go all into the like all talk at the table must be in character. And I've played those kinds of games and that can be really rewarding and fun. But just like simple things where like you come in and you knock a guy off from like killing your party member, and they look at you and they're like, thanks. And they might be saying that in character or out of character, that can be taken however. And you like look back at them like the paladin you are and say, Paylor's justice shines bright today. Get back up, comrade. Like just small things. I mean, that's not small. That's pretty big. But, you know, just responding to things in character. Like when you roll a 1, you don't just swear like you normally would at a table. You are just like, you were like, by the gods, I think by the 6 in Oblivion and stuff like that, Skyrim.
I think actually to modify my earlier statement about people playing as themselves, I think it's best to play as the thing that you are the most comfortable with first.
Right.
Sure.
Because I think there's a really, at least like I have a really strong urge to like come up with the most unique thing I can every time.
Right.
But I think it's actually really helpful. The first time I just played as Rodriguez because I knew that character inside and out because I had made him. And I also think that kind of character is hilarious. I didn't know you when I did that.
No, I meant my advice for the podcast was pick a character that you like.
Yeah. Picking an actual character works, but it can also just be the type, I guess. Like
that's true.
Like play the type that you're familiar with. Like John's character currently in our game is such a John character because he hasn't played before.
My biggest mistake was my first campaign. I played a wise, quiet dwarf.
The dwarf shaman.
And you can play quiet characters well. Everything can be done well.
Right.
Well, I couldn't play the game.
My point was just being
if I didn't know what was going on.
You're not used to like playing that and you try to do that, then you're putting all your energy into trying to accurately portray this person who's just like completely opposite of you. So you end up not having as much fun with the game because you're just trying your best to like embody this different person.
My advice would be if you created a character that you don't feel comfortable, play yourself. Just forget your stats, make decisions that you would make. It's way better to get into the game as yourself than to try
not at all.
Yeah, than to try and
fair.
force
And then you can start making
you
adjustments. Once you're used to it, then you can be like, okay, now I'm going to play myself except more reckless, and I will then start making decisions that maybe I wouldn't make in real life, but that this guy would make.
I got so hung up on my first game going like, would my character do that I literally didn't play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Which we'll cover in
yeah, like we said,
episodes.
like John decided to play a giant tree with an axe, and he does things that giant trees with axes do. They also happen to be the same things that John does in real life, so it works out.
Yeah,
and I think that's I think that's perfect. I think you should always do that first. And now that he's done that one, now we're making him a character for alter egos, and we're doing different things. And now he's getting interested in like, okay, well now I want to alter it and be this kind of person. And like, I think it's just a good way to get into it. Is just like don't feel like you have to make something like really unique. Just be what you're comfortable being, and then learn how to play the game.
I have other advice. I don't know if it's good for this podcast, so tell me if it's like
sure.
For
go
a
ahead,
different
throw
topic.
it out there.
But every time I've played D&D or watched people play D&D, excluding like Critical Role and stuff where everyone's big characters and voice actors, someone is always a leader in the group. Someone just has an inherent leader character or a leadership personality.
That's called
the party face.
Oh, wow! Look at this.
The show is called Facing the Party.
Yeah, wow. But yeah, so someone's gonna do that. So you can kind of decide if you're feeling that, or if you'd rather play a character that fits into a group with a leader. Like for the Millennium games, my character is not a leader character.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we had other players who didn't necessarily take the lead in making decisions or move. You know, because the DM will be like, all right, what are you going to do? You're just in a field, right? And then everyone has to think someone's going to do something first. And so everybody usually is waiting on someone to have done something. And I think as it goes along, eventually the party becomes cohesive and you stop having like a leader. But kind of figure out what role you want to play in a party. Like, do you want to be the decision maker? Do you want to just make jokes in the background? Do you want to be kind of quiet and then just interrupt with bad advice later? Like, what is the thing that you want to do?
You want to just, like, dispense fortune cookie wisdom while dispensing a special brand of kung fu.
That's actually Ethan's character for
then
Alter
do
Egos.
it.
Yeah.
But he's a rat.
Even better.
Exactly.
The only thing I remember about Ethan's character is in the first episode there was like they were like two henchmen doing something in the back of a building that he accidentally stumbled across, tried to talk them down, and then just like poked them both instead, and they immediately died or something.
Right.
That's all I remember about his character.
The worst thing that happened was when I was playing my first Altered Egos, I was playing a character and I tried to get into character, and then I rolled nat ones on everything my character would do. And it was so hard because I was playing a mesmerist character. So I'm over here trying to convince people to change their mind regularly. It's what I do. It's my whole superpower.
I swear to God, I do this
I did not succeed once.
Yeah.
So it got really hard to play my character because
That is
turns
rough.
out
Yeah.
now my character is known for being terrible at the only thing she knows how to do, supposedly.
That can be
really
I've
daunting.
done that before. I've played a character. I was a rogue treasure hunter who was like really embellishing all of his accomplishments. That's what he did. He was just straight up like I've seen it all. I've gone through hundreds of expeditions and I'm level 1. But you know, and
Level
so one of the party members for some reason decided that he had had enough of me. And in the first session, he like rolled insight to see if he could catch on to my bullshit. And he rolled a nat 20.
No.
And I tried to lie again with a deception roll and rolled a nat 1.
Oof.
And the DM decided to rule that for the rest of the campaign, our cleric could always see through every single lie I ever told.
Dang. That's a powerful of a nat 20.
But I rolled with it. I kept laying it on. That's who my character was. And like I had a high deception stat and just kept rolling, kept being just like, "Oh yeah, you need snipers? I've been a sniper. I know my way around every bow and arrow in the land." And
Right. I think
the cleric just sighs and, you know, we kept going.
Yeah, I think if that happens, you honestly just have to make that part of your character.
Right.
Turns out you wrote a character one way, it's not that good at those things anymore. You rolled bad that round. You know, tomorrow maybe you're feeling better. You leveled up and you're doing a little better and you learned something. But the first time, if you're rolling nat ones, that's your character, dude. Sorry. I know you didn't want that, but just let it happen and just get into what your character would respond to if they constantly failed that day.
I had a player who, on our first session, he was playing super edgelord rogue, tiefling rogue.
Me.
Tiefling
all the way in.
Yeah, all the way in. And like his very first session, our very first combat in a bar, and like he rolls a natural 1 on his first swing and like trips. And then he like tries to jump up on the table and leap from there to the bar, which was pretty far, so I had him make an acrobatics check. And he rolled a natural 1 on that too.
Oof.
And that's 2 natural 1s in a row. And so I chipped his horn. I chipped one of his horns. And then he just like became upset about that in character, not out of character. Out of character,
Okay.
he loved it. And like he was just like, it was a big like sore spot for him. Any of the party members could be like, well, at least I'm not, you know, 2-sized horns. And he's just like all upset. Like it was just like an inch of horn I chipped.
Yeah.
And he was just like constantly like trying to find like a way to like groom his horns perfect.
Yeah.
Like, get them back. And it was great. It was wonderful. He took that and rolled with it. And you just got to roll with things like that.
I think
Make it
honestly,
an
yeah,
opportunity.
just as another advice, just roll with what you got. It's because things like, well, there's also I didn't really get this when I first started, but I would come up with like, these entire backstories and stuff, and then we would be starting at level 1, and I'd be like, this doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
For some reason, it took me a long time to go, oh, I should change that then.
Right.
Like
Right.
if you're starting at level like that's another reason why it's important to, I think, like the session 0,
Session
talk to your
0 is
party,
really
talk to your GM. But like if you're starting at level 1, you're making an inexperienced character. Take that into account, right?
Right.
Like roll with that part. If you do roll a bunch of bad rolls, then just that is the story that you were playing out. You know, just run with it. Don't lean into it. Don't try to pull back from it, or then it is going to feel like a failure. But if you lean into it, then it will feel intentional and it will feel like the story being told instead.
Right. Like a level 5 barbarian has like captured multiple villages or something.
Sure,
a
yeah,
level
that
1
works.
barbarian has seen someone else do it. Right? Like
Right.
you have
Yeah.
to make sure you're in the right spot cuz you'll just never be able to do what you want that early, or you just have a bad day.
And as a result, most of our campaigns don't start at level 1 anymore either.
Right.
That's the other
D&D
option.
is this amazing game with a lot of writing that you can easily overwrite.
That's true, yeah.
So that's definitely something to take away. So as the whole, what is RP? It's just getting into character to play a role-playing game. It is
Oh, go ahead.
everything that isn't rolling dice and even rolling dice. You can roll dice in character. Everything you can do can be in character. Not everything has to be in character, but you should try to do as much in character as you can.
Yeah. What was our advice? First thing was describe your actions.
Describe your actions in character is step 1, and step 2 is trying to find a way to respond in character.
Sure.
Find your voice, find your quirks, and start trying to lean into them slowly. They don't all have to come at once, and don't be afraid. That's the number one thing about role playing. Don't be afraid. Like if your voice is not as good, like if you want to go for like an accent and it sucks, that's great. Lean into it. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be afraid. Everybody's here to have fun. And if you're in a group where you are being like bullied and made fun of for trying a voice and things like that, just probably like
Just leave.
talk to that
No,
group
just leave.
and then leave it.
Yeah, don't bother
Don't
with
deal
people
with
that are
that.
going to
Like,
do that.
come on.
Which
think-
leads into the next point, which is pick people you're really comfortable being around.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
If you don't
to
have
start.
friends, pick your mom. It doesn't matter. Just pick somebody
Oh,
that
my
can play
lord.
the game with you that isn't going to harass you for trying your hardest.
Yeah.
I can't do accents. I will never try to do an accent, but I
You
know
don't
if I
always
tried,
have to.
I know if I tried in my current group, I would be encouraged.
Yeah.
Even though I literally, it doesn't matter the accent. I sound racist no matter what.
Yeah.
I can do a British accent and it
You
sounds
can-
racist. I
You
swear
can
to
bomb
God.
your accent, but if you stick with it, it's just part of
No,
the
actually,
character.
Matlock actually said something that was weirdly true about this.
What'd he say?
Like, if you're trying to do an accent, like caricaturizing it actually gets you closer than trying to do
I know.
than trying to do it accurately.
It's true.
Which is really disappointingly true.
But when Matt does it, it's cute. When I do it, I swear to God, I sound so racist.
sorry.
Everything I do in, again, English accents. Somehow I sound
Like-
offensive.
when I'm a DM, I will try some sort of. Normally, I'll try some sort of voice for every character.
That's good.
But like when I'm playing, if like I'm playing a female character, I'm not gonna subject everybody to like like a higher pitched voice or like
You have to do it for so long.
for so
too.
long. But like I'll find a cadence and a way of speaking for that
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
Like it'll still be
I think
me,
that's
but I'll
better.
be speaking way differently than I normally speak.
So another thing you can actually take is if you pick a character who you like the way they talk and then just kind of talk like them. You don't have to imitate their
Right.
voice.
So then the
but
third piece of advice is
steal everything.
Steal everything. Yep.
I didn't actually get to that part yet, but this is my favorite thing about Dungeons and Dragons.
Alright.
Especially coming from the perspective of a
Pathfinder.
filmmaker, you can rip off anything you want and it doesn't matter.
that's true.
So like
The
every
FBI
world I
is coming
build,
to knock down your DM, your door, your Dungeons and Dragons
like
game.
just take stuff you like from other things and stick them together and you're good to go. That's how I like every one of the characters you guys interact with. In my head, it's a existing person.
yeah,
It doesn't come across that way to you because I'm doing it.
sure.
So it sounds unique. But like in my head, I'm imitating somebody.
My favorite things.
And that's how they
is-
stay separated.
Steal everything but art.
So in Altered Egos, Kyle's character personality is based off of Luke from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things. He's like a raging barbarian covered in armor like Iron Man, but his personality is a grumpy diner owner.
Yeah. Perfect.
And he just stole it. Like, straight up, your character is great because you stole the cadence, the voice, every decision, and it works because it's an original character when you put your spin on it.
Right.
But you just straight up were like, I'm watching some Gilmore Girls to get into character.
I'm excited
And
to start
works,
it back
it's
up
good.
again, actually, because it's
I'm
going to be
stoked.
like the whole. It makes it very easier for me to make decisions too, because I can just use that character as like. So what do? It's like I'm very grumpy outwardly, but I have a heart of gold and will help literally anybody that asks me while complaining about it the entire time.
See,
That's it. And now I know, and I know what decisions to make in every situation.
See, my
It just
Altered
makes it real
Egos
easy.
character is based off of Raven, and I just watched Teen Titans, all of it.
didn't
She's
you-
actually quiet, so
But you also originally yours was also based off. Were
Ty
you
Lee.
doing Ty Lee just dressed as Raven?
kind
basically?
of, yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
which is a little bit different.
She had like a charismatic heart, but she was dark and edgy on the outside.
Oh my lord.
I'm excited to do this.
Well,
again.
see, I think that actually works pretty well because that way, like, again, it's literally just you're wearing the face paint, but you just don't act like it at all.
Yeah.
You just don't play the part.
Well,
so,
but
yeah,
I have
think,
a really edgy story, so it's kind of hard. I'm still playing around with it. We're gonna pick it back up. It's gonna be great.
yeah,
But...
we should
Fair
actually
enough,
talk
fair
about that literally this week because we have to record that on Saturday.
Well, I think we've definitely answered the question we came to answer in this episode, which is what is RP?
Sure, yeah.
So at the end of the day, don't be embarrassed. Get out there, play some Dungeons and Dragons, play some Pathfinder, play some GURPS World, play whatever you want to play.
And just lean into it. Just
just
go with the flow.
all the
It'll
way
be
in.
way easier, way more fun.
Yeah.
So anybody else got any last thoughts they want to throw out there before we close this off?
I think that's
Just, yeah. Just have fun. Best life advice for anything. But
There you go.
legitimately,
That's helpful.
if you're not having fun,
Get a new group.
you're something's wrong.
Try again. Though.
Just have a fun.
If you are not having
have
fun for
one
the
fun.
third time, you're probably the problem.
A single fun. Pick a fun, take it.
All right, guys.
That's my advice.
So that will be us facing the party for today. Tune in next month. I don't know when they're going to be released. On the next one. Tune in the next one. And we'll have more advice for role playing for all of your tabletop adventures.